This trade has obviously sent shockwaves throughout all of sports, throughout the world. Curious how you two are processing it. Howie, I know you're a big supporter of the Rangers and the Stars. You dabble with the Mavericks as well. What has been sort of your sentiment in the last 15 hours or so?
Well, this is clearly a huge moment in Dallas sports history, and they wouldn't be calling two news reporters in to offer their horrific sports takes if it weren't. And there's a reason why I'm wearing a Stars jersey right now, because this is by far the worst trade I have ever seen in Dallas sports history, especially when it comes down to what it means for Mavs fans. I was down at the AAC earlier today, was getting a couple of steps in by the Katy Trail, and then I decided to swing by. And everyone there who was protesting, you could just, like, some of the people were doing it for someone like, obviously, let's get some photographs, let's get some posters. But everybody was just, I just think they were in disbelief. They couldn't believe that you would take away a player that meant so much to the city and hand them over to one of the most hated franchises in the NBA. And I know that they're hated for a reason. It's because they're successful. And boy, oh boy, are they about to be even more successful. And the reason why I'm wearing the Stars jersey right now is if you want to jump ship, there is another team in Dallas that actually cares about winning, that doesn't care about trading away the equivalents to what? Mike Modano in the heyday of the Stars, whenever they have a generational talent, letting them go. So, yeah, if you want to join the Stars bandwagon, you can. If you want to join the Rangers bandwagon, you can. Because they are actually running their organizations correctly. There are no malpractices happening whatsoever. And I'm afraid that that's the only way I can characterize this trade is malpractice.
I hope that's your Travis Jankowski jersey.
It is. It is a Travis. I want to see if I can.
Yes,
can you
sir. See it? Yes, sir. Ski. Okay.
How do my traps look? I just did back.
They look great. You're looking stealthy.
That's all that matters. Anyway, yes. But I do know that Job, and we were talking before you got on, Jonah, about this is amazing if you're a Lakers fan, but he doesn't seem to agree.
Yeah, what's the deal, Job? And you're just very nonchalant and reserved about this. Like, what do you know that we don't?
Well, listen, I'm never going to be up here or down here, right? Like, I'm always going to be very even keel. So when I first heard
very normal fan behavior. Yes.
Yeah, right. So here's the thing. When I first heard the news last night, it was like, okay, let's sit back here before I go crazy on this. Because you have to understand, when you're in Dallas, you Dallas fans live in a cocoon. And you think Luca is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And the reality is he's a 25-year-old player in a 35-year-old's body. He's been playing professional sports since 16 years old. Listen, he's great, and he is a great player. You're not getting it. I mean, everyone keeps saying he's an aging center or power forward, whatever you want to call him. AD is still a monster. Anthony Davis was giving us 32 points, like 12 boards, 5 assists for the first quarter of the season. He had like 2 40-20 games. The dude can play, right? And so I love that I'm getting Luca, but for a Lakers fan, it's creating all new holes for us, because now we need to figure out and we need to reset and realize we need a big, we need defense. The offense may take care of itself, but we also need to surround more shooting around Luca. I mean, all the things that the Mavs did well last year in their run to the finals was because they had good shooting, decent defense, not great defense, decent defense, but great shooting around Luca. The Lakers don't have that. They have an aging LeBron James who's 40 years old, who's also a ball dominant player. So you got Luca who's ball dominant, and you got LeBron. He's not going to just run screens all day. That's not his game. So I'm going to be a little more measured in my approach.
Yeah, that's boring. I don't. You got one of the top 5. You got the second runner up for MVP last year, and you can say all you want about his conditioning and about being a 25-year-old in a 35-year-old's body. As a 34-year-old, A, I'm offended by that, and B, this is a guy who just like 5 months ago, led a team to the NBA Finals, averaged 30 points in Boston when no one else could make a shot. So you can try to poke holes in all the little different things, but when it comes down to it, you need a gamer, especially in the playoffs. He is that. You make a good point. It doesn't really make sense from a roster construction standpoint for the Lakers, but Luca appears to be the passing of the torch for LeBron, right? Maybe they don't work right now, or maybe they do, but it's going to look weird or different. And I would imagine the Lakers aren't done. Trade deadline still, has to come, and that they would likely add some bigs so they can give it a fair shake while they have both of them. But yeah, from a roster construction standpoint, doesn't make sense for the Lakers. Doesn't really make sense for the Mavs. Doesn't really make sense to anybody for anybody, which is why over the last, since this trade dropped late Saturday night, it's been who's the winner here. And I actually, fellas, I have figured out who has won the trade.
Okay, tell us, please. Come on.
It's Jerry Jones.
Yes.
Jerry and Stephen Jones are the big winners in all of this, because
the heat's off. Yeah.
Now their whole coaching search becomes the second story of the week. Now I'm sure they partly hate that, and they're going to try to find a way to retake the top of the news cycle this coming week. I'm going to be looking forward to that. But in terms of just news this week, this has just been nutty. Well, Howie, were you out last night when this dropped? Were you amongst Mavs fans, or were you just posted up playing Fortnite or something?
No. I wish. Fork knife. I actually was coming back from a vacation. And so I had missed, like, last week's news cycle was kind of unreal. And so, like, I was sitting from afar kind of watching it all happen. And I was like, oh my gosh, like people working right now are probably just like getting pushed to their limits. And then when we got back last night, I just crashed because I came off of a flight. And so went to bed. By the way, the Mavericks just lost to the Cavaliers pretty badly. But I went to bed, and then I was just catching up on some sleep, and I woke up in the morning, and my fiance was like, hey, did you see they just traded Luca? And I said, the things that came out of my mouth, I was like, what? Like, you want to talk about a wake up that did not make a lick of sense. Are you joking me? The all of the little things that we connected to Dirk, all of the little things that Cuban loved about Luka, that he admired in Dirk, that he was hoping to bring to the Mavs and kind of I guess bring this team back to greatness. And then now we're just going to kiss him goodbye to the Lakers. And I get it that this is a nuanced thing. And I kept thinking to myself at the protest today, because like I said, we just happened to be swinging by there. I kept thinking to myself, because people are chanting "Fire Nico Harrison" and "Sell the team," and it was so funny because I was like, "Just say sell the team again," because it got sold earlier. Like, it was just funny that you can't just chant "Sell the team" when we just sold it. But I'm wondering, does this work out? What if Anthony Davis comes here, and what if he plays great? What if he is what the Mavericks need? I kept watching the Celtics games last year, and I was like, we cannot stop this team. They kill us. And so you bring in someone who's defensive-minded, and I think Harrison saying defense wins championships, that I can buy that. But right now, it's like, do you really take away a once-in-a-lifetime unicorn? And I know he's a 35-year-old, or in a 25-year-old and a 35-year-old body. I get that. But do you really send him away, or do you try to build around him?
Well,
that's where I am.
This trade makes sense if you're trying to beat the Celtics in the finals, right? Because the Celtics defense shut down the Mavericks in the finals, but outside of Luka. And you're trying to kind of run that two-way style of play where you get a bunch of guys who can defend and play on offense. And the Celtics clearly were historically good last season. And so that's the bar that, the Mavs are now trying to reach. And so bringing in AD, and then you've got Lively and Gafford down playing the 5 with PJ Washington, with Klay Thompson, and Kyrie's effort at the 1. That is a defensive-minded team. And you got Najee Marshall off the bench. It does make sense. Like, that team could compete better against the Celtics in the finals, in theory. Mm-hmm. The Mavs wouldn't have made the finals without Luka Doncic.
It goes back and forth.
They wouldn't even been there. So this whole concept of now we're more, positioned to beat the Celtics, I don't think they're poised to even get out of the first round in the West.
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
let's start here. Well, first off, the true makeup, at least recently in recent history in the NBA, has been the makings of success. Makings for success is having enough two-way players. The Celtics, up and down the roster, probably 1 through 8, have great two-way players, right?
Yep.
The Mavs did not have that. Mostly all offensive oriented. This doesn't really solve that issue so much in that you still have Kyrie, who I think still is a defensive liability, but you couldn't have Kyrie and Luca on the court together because there's way too many holes to fill. All right. But now you have this gluttony of bigs. Like you got to do something with Lively, and you got to do something with Gafford, and you have Anthony Davis. I mean, talk about a good problem to have. If you were to ask me, like, if you were to step back and say, analyze this trade, I'd say I think the Mavs won in the short term,
Mm-hmm.
but the Lakers may have won in the long term, right? Like, what happens post LeBron? Well, Luca fits into that place. But in the short term, you have, for now, a healthy Anthony Davis who can complement Kyrie. Kyrie and AD know each other very well. They've trained together very, often. They played on Team USA, and so that helps, right? With the Lakers, now you have a whole host of problems that you now need to figure out. And it's funny, like, it's funny. My barometer for what I think is a good or bad decision is when Urban Magic Johnson tweets. And he rarely, well, I don't know if tweets is the right word, puts out a post on X. He hasn't said anything yet, which is telling. So I don't know what's up there, but
I love Magic tweets. It'll come in like 5 hours and it'll be like, the Lakers have traded for Luka Doncic. Great move.
Great move. That's it.
I love Magic tweets. No, it's a good point you make. That we are all kind of we're all kind of Monday morning quarterbacks in some sense. We're all just kind of spectators to all this, and we want to bludgeon a trade before we've even had a chance to see it pan out. But the magnitude of this trade goes beyond the X's and O's and just trading a player for somebody, positions and whatever. You're trading away a global brand in Luka Doncic. You're giving up sales and merch, tickets. All that money that you have been profiting off of Luka is going to go down. As good as Anthony Davis may be, it doesn't matter. I mean, Luka was on a short list of global superstars in basketball.
I mean, we said Jason Wheeler to freaking Slovenia. Like, what other news station? And by the way, I'm gonna throw out some punt for old Channel 8 here. What other news station sent someone overseas? I mean, like, that's when Channel 8 does stuff big, when they say, is this story that big that we have to chase it? And we sent a reporter and a photographer to go talk to Luka's hometown, to talk to people about what he meant, to them now and then. And you're right. That is, to me, what is crazy about all this. I do want to ask a question, though. Oh, go ahead.
Here's what I think is the craziest part about this trade. Okay, because we're only talking about Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic. First of all, you're gonna like Max Christie. He's a really solid two-way player. Okay, you're gonna like him.
Don't do this, Jobin.
Here's
they got one first-round pick, and it's in like 4 years.
And that's the issue. You
what
can't
are you doing?
Just get away with one first-round pick. If Rudy Gobert can get 5 first-round picks or something like that,
Mikal Bridges got 5. Mikal Bridges.
And Luka can only get 1 and an extra player.
It's because they didn't shop him. Nico said it as much. It was just this side deal with Rob Pelinka, and if they just leaked it, and other teams knew that he was on the market, they would have got better offers.
This
says to me 2 things. One, AD was maybe their only target in all of this, but if that's the case, leak it, create a bidding war, and get more than just AD and a first-round pick in Max Christie. You could probably have got a lot more.
Yeah,
I would guarantee you could.
That's what
other teams didn't even know he was available.
Yeah, that's what I think is nuts.
It's business malpractice.
Yeah, that's what I think is nuts, is that you don't even get you don't even get probably what's his supermax contract? It's 325?
70, 370 or
360,
something,
360
360.
something. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 300 million plus. I mean, that is essentially what we're looking at as far as the worth of Luka Doncic. And then he doesn't get that contract by going to the Lakers, and we don't even, like you said, give a chance to sniff the roses and see what's out there, to see what else we could get. I totally agree with you on that. And while Jobin is being very, very, very humble, probably one of the most humble Lakers fans I've ever hung out with. I feel like that's just like for us to just throw this out and to not even give anything else a chance, to not even hear what anyone else had to say. It just speaks to me that maybe we don't know something. Maybe there's something in the water down there at the WAC that they didn't like Luka. And you're right, short term, this may work out, but long term, it's like, I don't know. And this was going to be my question to either of you. Would you rather see? There were problems with the Mavericks last year, and we saw it in the finals. We all kind of knew the Celtics were going to be a problem because of the Mavericks' defense, and obviously their defense is really good. But my question is, would you rather watch a generational talent season in, season out, and not see a championship, or do you want to see a championship in the short term? Because that's kind of what I'm hearing.
It's really a great question. I've heard from some Mavericks fans, I'd rather cheer for Luca, who's been our guy since we brought him in at 18 years old in 2018, and just ride it out with him, kind of like they did with Dirk, than kind of do a trade deadline deal that gets us a championship with a couple of pieces we have no connection to.
Yeah.
Because that's the interesting part about fandom, right? It's like you build this continuity and this loyalty and this affection for these guys, and it can happen fast. Like Mavs fans fell in love quickly with PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford after what they did last year, and AD could come right in and they go on a run, and maybe people will be like, okay, let's see this play out. But
the same goes for the Lakers. I mean, listen, there are some diehard Anthony Davis fans, right? And they thought he was going to be the corner piece for this Lakers franchise post LeBron. Clearly, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And I think Nico Harrison kind of saw the tea leaves when he realized that for the third year in a row, Anthony Davis has asked to be the forward on the team and asked for a 5. I need a center along with me because my body's getting bruised having to deal with all these big time centers. And he's 255. Right? Going up against 270, 290 Jokic, guys like Jokic. And so he's like, I need a center to play along with me. 3 years in a row, he's been asking for that. And I think this last ask, when he did an interview with Shams 2 weeks ago, was probably it. There was like, we're not getting you a center. And in fact, we're shipping you out for Luka. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's probably what's happening.
There's a couple of interesting connections with this deal. So JJ Redick briefly played for the Mavericks, and so now he's going to be Luka's coach with the Lakers. Jason Kidd was an assistant coach for the Lakers for a few years, the same years that AD won a championship with LeBron in LA. That was also the bubble championship. Some would call it a Mickey Mouse championship. That's just kind of up to you in terms of who you like to root for.
If the Celtics had won that championship, you wouldn't be calling it a Mickey Mouse championship.
You mean the Heat? You mean if the Heat had won? Wasn't it Heat?
No, I'm talking about your Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
I'm not a Celtics guy. I am a neutral observer, basketball junkie.
Okay.
That's okay.
You know what I'm bummed about is that I'm not going to be able to see Luka Doncic play at the WAC 41 times during the regular season and then in the playoffs, because it was such a spectacle.
It was.
Every time he touched the floor, you never knew what he was going to do, whether it was drop 73 points or some 40-point triple double or throw passes behind his head for alley. I mean, he is just unbelievably fun to watch. Now, I know there are some basketball fans out there who find his brand of basketball to be exhausting. Talking to the refs and not getting back on defense, and him being targeted on defense and kind of exploited in that way, and being a liability.
which are all the same things people talk about LeBron, which is funny. Now we have two of those people on the same team.
Yeah, you're very correct there. So
I kind of liked it when he trash talked. Like that was sort of like, I mean, I don't know. I know that's part of the game, but I agree with you. He did it a little too much. But then he would kind of get that. I feel like he used that as some sort of fire underneath him to go on the front.
Yeah, there was a stretch during the playoffs where, or even a lot of big games where he would just kind of go along and he was like kind of like 90s MJ where he would need something to set him off.
Yeah.
To really get going. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the Last Dance documentary, but there were times Michael Jordan just made up stuff like narratives in his head. He's like, oh, this guy said this. Like, that guy never said
get himself going.
And to get himself going. And Luca would just like find fans that would, be heckling him or the other team's bet. He needed something to activate that mode in him. And it was unbelievable to watch. Like the playoffs last year was so fun. And the shot he hit in Minneapolis, like I'll never forget it. Like how he just walks down Rudy Gobert, hits that shot, screams in his face. The entire arena in Minneapolis is silent and holding their heads. They're in the the surrender cobra pose. Yeah, and I'm just like, that is a bad man right there. And now,
here's the thing about
not even a year later, they trade him for a guy who's often injured and allegedly makes them better defensively. I don't know, man. That is
but here's the thing. Here's what I love. Here's what I cannot wait for, right? Like his shot making aside, like obviously he's an incredible shot maker. I can't wait to see the late clock step back three. That's going to happen way more than I'd probably like. But like his shot making is one thing, his decision making is another thing. His ability to get to the rack, as slow as he is incredible, right? But really, it's his gravity on the court. Like the fact that he pulls defenders is just unreal.
Yeah.
And like you would think, oh, you'd have to be incredibly fast or incredibly quick. He's none of those things. Or incredibly athletic. He's none of those things. And yet he's ridiculously good. I'm looking forward to that.
I do think this is an interesting point to make. The Lakers have won 8 of their last 10. I think they're sitting 5th in the Western Conference right now. And I want to say the Mavs are 8. Am I right about that, Jobin? Or excuse me, Jonah?
The Mavs are what?
The Lakers are in 5th,
yeah. And so you're giving, again, a generational talent to another team in the same conference. How does this play out at the end of the season? Like, do any of you see the Lakers somehow matching up with the Mavs in the playoffs? Like, and what kind of fireworks that would be if it were to happen? Like, I don't know if it will.
I've circled April 9th.
They're playing in 2 weeks, like 3 weeks, right?
Well, they're playing in a few weeks in LA, end of the month. But April 9th, Lakers at Mavericks here in Dallas, like the second to last game of the year or something like that. There is the possibility that maybe they sit out Luca. That teams do that a lot, especially towards that part of the season. If if the game doesn't matter to one of those teams, maybe they go that route. But that is going to be high drama, because after how this trade transpired, this was a solo mission by Nico Harrison. Didn't talk to Luca, his superstar for the last 7 years. Didn't go to him and be like, "Hey, we're trading you," or "We're thinking about trading you."
Didn't talk to him.
He just did it, and then shoots him a text like, "Sorry, bro," that kind of thing. Like,
I know.
Was that really
like one of the best basketball players in the world and future Hall of Famer? I mean, it's mind-boggling to how like that was handled. And Luca has since unfollowed them on social media. The Mavs have got
best of luck.
Yeah, the Mavs have since lost a lot of followers, and I'm sure a lot of them are not just Luca fans domestically, but Slovenia and Spain. That they're really they care about Luca. They don't really care about the Mavericks. So, they're going to all kind of migrate to LA now when they come in to the United States for games. So
Did you see the IG post that he made on his story with all the missed calls from Nico Harrison? Like
who posted that?
Luka Doncic apparently posted, and hopefully I'm not being catfished right now by AI, but that was being shared on social media about how many missed calls like he had from Nico, and then got like a call from LeBron at like 2 a.m. and
Oh my God.
answered that one, but didn't answer any of the ones from Nico Harrison, which, again, if rings to be true, this is all just stuff I saw on social media.
Well, Luca's dad is now also on the record, right?
I don't know. I haven't read that.
Yeah, on the record saying this is pitiful, something along the lines of like he loved Dallas, wanted to be in Dallas.
Yeah, which is consistent with everything as Luka has said throughout. I mean, he got interviewed in Slovenia, and has said that he wants to stay here. But Nico Harrison has framed it in a way of, well, he is up for the Supermax, and that's a ton of money. We're worried about his conditioning and his injury, or we don't like how he's not a big time two-way guy, and he's really just an offensive threat. And then on top of that, they're concerned that he might leave down the road anyway. And then
he's not a threat. He's not an offensive threat. He's an offensive juggernaut.
Yeah, he's a juggernaut. He is. Yeah. He is. And it's going to be fun to watch because the Lakers are now going to be, I don't know how they're going to play defense. I don't know if they will play defense, but they might just score like 140 points a game because if they double Luka, then you got LeBron to deal with, and they both can move the ball. It's going to be, I'm just, as a basketball fan, I'm fascinated to see how it pans out. I'm distraught that we're not able to see, kind of that greatness that we've seen the last 7 years play out anymore here. But there's only one thing we can do, and this is also something Nico Harrison said in his press conference earlier today, is time will tell. Time will tell if this trade worked out. Because if it doesn't, his time might be up. And after this kind of deal, you are betting your entire reputation, probably your NBA GM career, on this one move.
You know what's funny? I flew into Love Field, like I mentioned yesterday, and we were walking in, and there was all of the Mavs faces on these columns that you were kind of going out to Dallas to see. And I was like, dude, Luka Doncic is like all over the place. Like we walked by the AAC, we saw, the TXU Energy, obviously their ads, and Luka was on them, and so were some of the other AAC, players. But like I think some of the Dallas Stars players were on there as well. But it just resonates so much more. Like, you're right, we can't see into the future. We don't have a crystal ball. But if this somehow gets us to a championship, I imagine a lot of Mavs fans will be like, "Whoa, I don't know about we don't need Luka." But
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I think,
but that's my point, is that you can't look at you. There's no one who can look at this and say, after all of the things that he did for us last year, moving into the end, you can't there's no one who would put their chips on. No offense to Anthony Davis. We might be sending Jason Wheeler up to Chicago to interview you if you do, or interview your family if we make it to the finals. But at the same time, it's like I cannot fathom a world where we're in the finals without someone like Luka. If it happens, I couldn't put my bet on it right now.
What's crazy to me is a team just acquired Anthony Davis, who is a big star in the NBA. He's been one of the better players in the NBA for the last decade. And still the fan base that gets Anthony Davis is distraught.
Yeah, like that's nuts.
That's just how much fans felt like they lost on this deal, where you're getting a superstar and it still feels like you just got absolutely your heart and your
well, here's the thing.
Kind of ripped out.
You're mourning two things. You're mourning, one, the loss of Luka, okay? And the second thing you're mourning is the fact that you lost Luka for nothing, right? Like, you didn't get, you got Anthony Davis, major prize, major big man, but you only got one first-round pick, which, listen, the Lakers only had a 2029 and a 2031 pick, first-round pick. Right. Everything else they shipped out to the New Orleans Pelicans to get Anthony Davis, right? And so, that's all they had to play with, and that worked, which is surprising.
Yeah, it was a absolute heist, and so all we can do is just wait and see. But there's going to be a lot of Mavericks fans not tuning in and not caring because they are sad and frustrated, and you know what? I don't blame them.
Do you think Anthony Davis gets booed when he gets called out on the court?
No, I don't think he'll be booed, but I do think Luka will be cheered with a huge standing ovation whenever he does play back in Dallas, because none of this was his fault. He's made it clear he wanted to stay. So and he shouldn't be. None of this should be on him at all.
No one should.
So we've got
things that, like, fans are so irrational that they will just associate this move with Anthony Davis.
No, I don't think so. I think Mavs fans are. I'm giving them more credit than that.
I think they won't either, but who knows? They brought a freaking coffin to the AAC today, so I'm just saying, like, things are pretty, like,
yeah, they're upset. The protests are going on outside the AAC. But we've got to wrap it up. We're in case you missed the Nico Harrison press conference from earlier today, we're going to run that in full. It happened just about 4 hours ago in Cleveland. Thanks for joining us on WFAA Plus. Jobin, Matt Howerton, Jonah Javad.
Hi, guys. We need to mention that Markieff Morris and Maxi Kleber are also in the deal. Okay, bye.
Bye.
How does this affect LeBron's legacy?
Bye.